Yo dudes!
Welcome to Store Cupboard Staples.
So at this stage we've shot over 200 videos, we've written 3 cookbooks, our third one isn't coming out to 2018. But regularly we'll use a similar store cupboard staple. So this video is to kind of show you our favorite store cupboard staples. So every recipe pretty much will break it down to 3 key components. There'll be your carbohydrates or your starches, there'll be your proteins, and then there'll be your fats. So in terms of starches or carbohydrates, being Irish, one of our all-time favorite is the oat. Perfect for your inner stallion. Great for flapjacks, great for kind of thickening a veggie burger, or perfect for porridge.
We typically make our porridge with rice milk as well. So you can either we get an unsweetened one, it's naturally very sweet. Sometimes they use a rice and almond milk. So I think they're fantastic. It lasts for, I don't know, a year or 2 typically before you open it. And then when you open it, it lasts a week. You'll get it in every health food store or supermarket, usually.
Perfect. Other starches, generally I'll have some form of cracker. We'll use a Ryvita, it's cheap, it's inoffensive, and it works perfect to add a hummus, to add avocado, to add kimchi. It's a great basic carrying starch, which is whole food.
Certainly in Ireland, you'll get them in every supermarket. And
I'm sure in America there's the equivalent.
Yeah.
In terms of other starches, things that I'd highly recommend is to have a wholemeal couscous. Takes 5 minutes to cook. Literally, you boil the kettle, put your couscous in, put whatever terms of spices you like and salt. Literally cover it so it's a little tiny bit over the surface of the couscous and put a lid on it. Leave for 5 minutes. Done. And then some form of brown rice or quinoa if you want.
Certainly, I prefer short grain. It's typically more nuttier rather than long grain basmati.
Last in the starch camp, we would go with some form of pasta. And try to get a wholemeal pasta. If you're gluten-free, brown rice we found to be our favourite. I quite like a fusilli or a spaghetti is my favourite.
Yeah, in terms of proteins, we're typically getting our proteins from whole plant sources. So obviously we've got almond butter. It's typically about 40% fat.
And then tahini would be another one. In terms of tahini, there's 2 varieties. They're light or dark. We recommend light just because it's tastier and slightly sweeter. The dark one normally has the hull of the sesame seed and is typically more earthy and typically sticks to the top of your mouth slightly more.
In terms of the proteins, obviously you've got red lentils, are fantastic. They're great.
We'll generally use them for dals or any type of a soup, any type of leftover veg. Put some lentils through and it just thickens it and adds that wonderful lentil-like texture.
Our 3 favourite nuts: walnuts, almonds, and
cashews.
So there's our 3 favourite nuts. They're also high in protein as well.
Other proteins that we're going to just mention are beans. Canned beans is a great one to have, such as chickpeas, kidney, butter beans. I think in America you guys call butter beans navy beans. So any type of a bean, canned bean, it's a great one for thickening any form of a curry or stew. It's a great one to use as a base for any sort of a dip, such as a hummus or the equivalent pate. Simple, tasty, and...
But they're fantastic to have in your store cupboard just to flesh out any kind of dinner and really make it go a little further. I use them all the time. Obviously this is store cupboard, so we're not talking about fresh ingredients.
Last fact just to mention is if you're into cooking with oil, in Ireland we tend to use rapeseed oil because typically in Ireland rape is grown and typically it's got a lower saturated fat content and higher omega-3.
Our friend Keith grows that, so that's why.
But you know, for many people who don't want to use oil, just get a non-stick frying pan instead.
We've got, if you're interested in cooking with no oil, we've got a Happy Heart course which we've had for 7 years where we've had, I'd say, 8,000 people through it at this stage. Showing people how to improve.
And typically there's a reduction of cholesterol of 20%. People lose weight, blood pressure regulates, and they all live happy ever after.
We'll leave a link in the description if you want no more information. So just to show you about the condiment section, we've got, first up is my all-time favourite. So we've got Tamari.
It's also known as David's Magic Black Sauce.
It gives that umami flavour. It's really a soya sauce that's been aged for longer and it's gluten-free. It's got a much rounder, kind of softer, sweeter kind of taste. I really like it. I nearly drink it from the bottle.
Other condiments that we'd recommend you having, some form of a liquid sweetener. Our preference is maple syrup. It can be quite expensive, but you know, stretch to where your budget goes.
Some kind of liquid sweetener is good. I think nutritional yeast is a great one if you are eating a vegan or a plant-based diet. Nutritional yeast is great. It gives that kind of cheesy flavour. It's nice to kind of sprinkle on top of dishes like chilies.
It's often referred to as hippie dust. If you ever go to any kind of hippie party, typically they'll be sprinkling magic hippie dust on top.
I don't know. I never called it that. I've heard it being called nooch loads of times, like nutritional yeast. Nooch. But interesting one to try anyway, and it lasts for years in your press.
Over to sauces.
Sauce section. First up, I think most important is the tinned tomato. Fantastic for any tomato-based sauce, and I think it goes hand in hand with tomato puree. Because without putting tomato puree in it, the sauce can end up a little bit too liquidy or too loose. Tomato puree gives a bit more body and a bit more...
Also known as tomato concentrate in some parts of the world. Other sauce options, coconut milk is a great one. Full fat or low fat. Typically full fat is about 20% fat content. Low fat is generally about 10%. With the can of coconut milk, you can scoop the cream off the top, which can work as an alternative to dairy cream. Another sauce option is to use veg stock. So this is a typical veg stock. You can get many different kind of powdered versions. Have a look at the ingredients and just try to get one that's preferably lower in salt.
But great for soups as well. I use it instead of water in soup stock because it'll have a natural flavour in it. Lastly, but certainly not the least, is our 5 favourite spices. So this is, obviously we season with spices because that gives the dish. We're not seasoned with fat or sweeteners or whatnot, it's really spices. So our favourite spices are, first up, ground cumin. I use it all the time in everything.
I think it's fabulous.
Yeah.
Next one, smoked paprika. So smoked paprika, in essence, paprika is Spanish word for pepper. The pepper is being dried, smoked, and then ground to a powder. So it adds a lovely smoky, oxtaily, almost slightly meaty like flavour.
Yeah, it's really good. In kind of chilies or that type of stuff, it gives a really depth of flavour.
And point of note with smoked paprika, be delicate with when you're seasoning because a little goes a long way.
Yeah, so you might start with a 1/4 teaspoon and then take it from there.
Chilli flakes, I think, are fab. I think they add colour, variety of texture, and heat if you're into spice.
A medium curry powder I think is fantastic and should be in everyone's store cupboard staple. I think I'll use it just generically with coconut milk, a couple of tablespoons, and it'll just add so much life to a dish.
Last and final, ground coriander. Again, if you're into coriander and you're part in North America, it's often referred to as cilantro. But I think it's great. I really like it. It's one of my favourites.
They're probably our top 5 favourite spices.
Last and final thing that we will always have in our cupboard is some form of an onion, garlic and ginger. I think they're just great basic condiments to pretty much any type of a main course
I wouldn't call
dinner.
them condiments, I'd call them
Vegetables.
components.
But they're long-lasting vegetables. You'll generally keep them in the press.
Long-lasting until they then start to go to seed and there's green bits coming out of them. So.
Anyway, hope you found this video of some use. Please share it with anyone you think that needs some inspiration as to what they should
if you
start.
know these people starting off, moving into their own houses, or students that are starting out, this is what we would have in everyone's store cupboard.
And just even a couple of things just to finish with. What foods you buy, you will eat. So if you buy crap food, you will eat crap food. So I think this is a great basic if you're trying to eat healthy or to eat more of a whole food plant-based diet. I think this is a great starting point.
Leave any comments with what you like in your store
cupboard.
Leave any comments with what you have in your store cupboard. We'd be genuinely interested in it. Thank you for subscribing and thank you for watching this. Sending sincerest love.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.